And look at verse 8. I'm going to use the NLT again because it makes the language more simple, but it's kind of funny. He says, was it in anger, Lord, that you struck the rivers and parted the seas? Were you displeased with them? No. You were sending your chariots of salvation. I mean, this is kind of funny. God's like, or Habakkuk's like, God, do you just hate water? Is that why you did what you did back then? Is God like a cat where he just doesn't, him and water don't get along, and that's why he parted the Red Sea. That's why God stopped up the Jordan River, because he just has this thing against water. He doesn't like it. Maybe it's like, you get your fingers all pruny like raisins in the bathtub, and God doesn't like that. No, of course not. God's not like that. Why did God act? It has nothing to do with hating water. It has everything to do with loving his people. God acted in the past to save the righteous from their enemies. Look at verse 13. You went out for the salvation of your people, for the salvation of your anointed. Why did God act powerfully? Because he wanted to save his people. God desires to save his anointed. That's why God goes to war against the wicked. God was on a rescue mission to save his people. And so here's the good news for us this morning. Even though the time of the Exodus is over, even though there's a new enemy of God, it's no longer the Egyptians, it's the Babylonians. Even though the situation has changed, one thing has not changed. God is still a loving God. God is still a saving God, and he still cares and loves and desires to save his people. That's his motivation. Brothers and sisters, how do we know God will act in the future the same way he has acted in the past? Because his heart towards his people has never changed. God isn't motivated by water. He's motivated by loving his people, the salvation of his people. He loves to be a saving, delivering God. Out of all the names the Son of God could have chosen when he came to live incarnate in human flesh, he chose the name Jesus, from the Hebrew verb yeshah, which means to save, to deliver. And as the angel said, you shall call him Jesus because he will save his people from their sins. That's how God acts. That's who he is, a saving God. Have you ever known someone so well that you would know what they would do in a situation before the situation even happened? Spouses, right? We know what our spouse would say even before the situation happens. Parents, we know what our children would do. Children, you probably know what your parents would say. I'm not even going to ask them. I know what they're going to say, right? Right? Friends, best friends, siblings, we kind of know how they're going to respond. Now, why do you know what they're going to respond like before the situation even happens? Is it because you can read the future? Probably not. The reason you know them, or you know what they're going to do, is because you know them so well. You've seen them in similar situations so many times before. You know their motivations, their likes, their dislikes. And brothers and sisters, you can know God that way. You can know God's heart like this. What motivates God? Goodness, righteousness, holiness, glory for his name so that people might know where salvation and life can be found. What does God like? He likes to deliver the righteous. What does God hate? He hates the proud and the wicked and the oppressors. And if you know what God is like, you can take comfort how God will act in the future. It may not be in our timing. It may not be in the way we think it should be done. But God knows things that we don't know. He has all the information. We have so very little, so we got to be a little careful when we judge God for what he's doing. But if we know the heart of God, rest assured the future looks bright because God will